My name's Martha, and in this Red Gaming Tech video, I'm here with another buffet platter for you, which definitely fits the period, as of course we are hurtling at light speed towards Christmas. I know the year has gone crazy fast, as it always tends to do this time next week. It pretty much will be Christmas, so but get cracking on my Game of the Year video. Anyway, the first item on our itinerary is something from Obsidian Entertainment, who you probably know and probably love because they make some rather good games, to say the least. Just a few. They made Tyranny, Pillars of Eternity, South Park Stick of Truth, Fallout New Vegas, and of course KOTOR 2, Sith Lords, and Neverwinter Nights 2. So they've been a bit quiet since doing Tyranny. Not that I blame them. That must have been an absolute buttload of hard work, and that game is pretty solid. So, a well-earned rest. Definitely good. But they have now something cooking behind the scenes, which is going to be led by Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, who were part of the team responsible for Fallout and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which definitely gets your ears perked up, and has been taken under the wing of Take-Two's brand new label by the name of Private Division. So, you might be a bit concerned by the fact that Take-Two are kind of publishing this because, well, the CEO Strauss Zelnick has not exactly been shy about the fact that he is a big fan of games as a service, and that they, as a company, would be relying more on what he called, quote, for current customer spending, more than actual game sales. So it's obviously got fans a little bit worried that, we're going to see like microtransactions or loot crates or other such nonsense in Obsidian's brand new RPG. However, they were quick to put these worries to bed. Of course, whether or not that remains to be true, we'll have to wait and see for the final product, but they are at least assuring us, and I think to be honest, because it's Obsidian, because they have a history of making good stuff, if they say no, then obviously it's perhaps going to be monetized in a different way, or something else, I don't know. And he said, quote, "We're extremely excited about our upcoming RPG, and we know you are too. We wish we could tell you about it right now, but we're going to hold off until the time is right. What we did want to talk about is a question a lot of you have been raising. Will this upcoming game feature any loot boxes or other microtransactions? The answer is simply no. No microtransactions of any kind in our game. We also wanted to say about our partnership with Private Division, our publisher on this title. Far from pushing us to put anything, microtransactions or otherwise, into our game, Private Division has been incredibly supportive of our vision, our creative freedom, and the process by which we work to make RPGs. They have been fantastic partners, and we're extremely excited to work with them through release to put what we know is going to be an amazing game into as many hands as possible." So there you have it. That is pretty clear. No microtransactions of any kind in their game. So it claims that the games as a service model is not going to be showing its ugly head in that particular way. Of course, there's still DLC and so on. But as I've said to you in the previous video where I discussed the comments by the Square Enix CEO, I don't think you can put DLC in the same camp as loot boxes or microtransactions. Yes, there is bad DLC. Yes, there is overpriced DLC. They're often the same thing at the same time. But there's also a ton of really, really good DLC as well. So, this is Obsidian. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they produce. I have always enjoyed their output, so hopefully it won't be too long before we see what they're up to, but it's probably going to be a while. Probably going to be E3 maybe, before we see a real trailer or anything from them. But, if we get something before then, awesome. But I wouldn't count on it, personally. So, you can rest your little heads on that particular worry. But while we talk about loot boxes, I know, we have another government weighing in on the discussion of whether or not loot boxes are gambling. Now, you guys know my opinion. I am of the opinion that loot boxes are gambling. But a New Zealand government regulator has said that loot boxes are not a form of gambling. Now, we have a comment here from Trish Millward, who is part of the Gambling Compliance Office for New Zealand's Department of Internal Affairs, and she spoke to Gamersutra on Monday and said that, quote, "Loot boxes do not meet the definition of gambling." And I will, of course, include a link to Gamersutra's article and interview with her in the description below this video. I will, of course, put Gamersutra's article in the description below this video if you want to give it a read. But basically the TLDR is, at the moment, they are keeping a close eye on loot boxes, as are most governmental bodies at the moment. But under the current law, which is, to be fair, fairly old, that was a 2003 law, it doesn't meet the definition of gambling. She said, quote, while the payment of money for a loot box with the content of which are determined by chance may appear to be gambling, the department has the view that loot boxes do not meet the legal definition of gambling. And she went on to say that players do not, quote, purchase loot boxes seeking to win money or something that can be converted into money. See, here's the thing. Actually, let me correct that. All games, apart from maybe like one or two that I'm unaware of, don't have a capacity for you to change your Overwatch skin or whatever into cash. However, as we've seen with CSGO, you can in fact take that skin onto a third-party website and make an absolute ton of money on it. And people have made money off people gambling for CSGO skins, as we saw with the whole CSGO Lotto controversy. So this argument doesn't really fly that far, and to be honest, just because it can't be turned into cash, that doesn't mean it's not gambling. It's still hitting the same sort of addictive part of your brain that is activated when you do gambling. You're still rolling a dice that you get what you want. You're still, pulling the wheel on the fruit machine or whatever, and hoping that you get what you want. That is, by definition, at least in my opinion, gambling. However, what my takeaway from these comments is at the current moment, under the current definition of law, they don't fall under it. But given how far EA pushed the whole loot box thing, and how far they pushed their luck in general recently, governments are keeping a very close eye on it, and to be honest, if it gets worse, or another company maybe steps that far again, which is entirely possible. We've seen the gaming industry make the same mistake several times over before they finally realise it doesn't work. We may see that law be updated so that loot boxes can indeed be classified as gambling, legally speaking. My opinion is what it is, but legally speaking, at least in New Zealand, that's not the case. So, disappointing. But this, of course, is not the first instance of this. The ESA and, of course, the UK Gambling Commission also said similar. But the UK was a bit more like, the current law, it doesn't. But they did seem to be open to the fact that it may need to change. So we may see that change or we may not. I think it depends entirely on what happens within the whole loot box sphere within the next, year or so. Finally, I just want to wrap up with a very small piece of news, as Intel Optane 900p SSDs are going to be available in capacities of 960GB and 1.5 terabytes, and this is according to a project change notification released by Intel themselves. At the moment, as you may know, the SSD 900p is only available in 280 gigs and 480 gig models. But that's not all, she says, thinking like some sort of weird game show host that will probably be hosted on some obscure game show at like 2 AM on Channel 4. But the document released by Intel also lists slightly lower voltages and a change to the packaging and an update to the firmware version. As I said, a very small update, but if you've perhaps been waiting for a really good SSD, they ain't cheap, to be honest. The 250GB model sells for about $390, and the 480GB model is $600. So the new capacities are not going to be cheap, but the information is out there, and obviously they may drop in price in about 10 years time. But they are working on it. They are cranking up that SSD capacity, which is definitely nice, because for a long time it was like, hey, here's 100 gigs, and I'm like, okay, where's the rest? And here we go, here's the rest. Thanks very much for watching though, guys. Your support is always appreciated. Do remember to give us a like, share and subscribe, and if you'd be so kind to give us a like, share and subscribe, your support does help out a great deal, and if you'd be so kind, check us out over at Patreon. But even if you don't end up tossing us $1 or what have you, do know that your support really does mean a great deal to both myself and Paul. So thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.